Let's talk about, well, how you pay for things, because increasingly when you go to the shop or do anything at all these days, you're asked to pay by card, which is all very well unless you get a blackout like Spain or Portugal, and then none of that works. Well, a new report by the Treasury Committee has suggested that actually we should have laws requiring shops to have to agree to take coins and notes because increasingly people are struggling to be able to use only cards. Let's talk about this with the Payment Choice Alliance's chair, Ron Delnevo, who joins us. Good morning to you, Ron.
Good morning, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. I mean, for a lot of us, just getting your card out, or indeed your phone and Apple paying, all nice and easy. Click, click, done, job done. Thank you very much. But there are certainly times when you need to have cash. But increasingly, service providers are just saying, no, you can't pay with cash. Whether it's paying in a car park, whether it's buying stuff in a store, they just say, no, we'll only take cards. Now, is that currently legal for them to say that?
Oh, it's currently legal because we're one of the few countries who haven't introduced measures to make it illegal to refuse cash, and that needs to change.
I just find it very strange because if it's legal tender, I remember there's like these people who are sort of angry with their local supermarket or bank and they go, right, I'm taking, £200 worth of £2 coins in to pay for something, but it's legal tender and you can't do anything about it. But so if you go to a store and you say, I've only got cash, and they say, well, it can only be by card, they can legally stop you from taking the item and saying, but I've left you, a tenner to pay for it.
Well, the sticklers for the rules, like Bank of England, will say that it's a debt settlement matter. So basically, if you went into a restaurant that said we don't accept cash, and you ate the meal and then said, I must be able to pay in cash, if they don't accept your cash, then you don't have to pay for the meal because basically you've offered to settle the debt in cash.
With legal tender, yeah.
Exactly. But we don't want to get into that situation. It's ridiculous that the public would have to behave in that way. All of the countries around us in Europe, France, Spain, now the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, and so on, they've already brought in laws to protect the public's right to use cash. And why should the British public be second-class citizens?
Why does that matter? Why should we protect the use of cash?
Well, because, for one thing, without cash, everything gets more expensive. Visa and MasterCard to American card schemes already take $1 billion a year out of the UK economy because they impose those charges on our retailers, which are then passed on to the public.
Yeah.
So that matters. Also, in a situation where cash didn't exist, all of those charges would go up. And small retailers wouldn't be able to negotiate good deals because they never get good deals.
I have to say, if I'm going to a big supermarket or buying a big item, obviously if you're buying stuff online, I'll use a credit card. But actually, a lot of the time, if I'm going to a local corner store or dry cleaners, or that, I do try and pay in cash. And again, not to them what they do in terms of taking. But a lot of retailers, they actually like to take things by card because they've got a record of every transaction. They don't have to worry with the banking of the money. People fiddling the till and all of that. There's a reason why things were £1.99, not £2, so you had to open the till and give the penny change. So a lot of retailers, even though they've got those extra charges, which you say they could pass on to customers, they prefer it to be cashless because it's less bother for them, isn't it?
Well, the biggest retailers in the country still love cash, like Tesco. They love cash. And the bottom line is that in the end, those retailers understand that costs will go up if cash disappears. Yeah. Also, the fact is that, retailers who only accept cards and digital are excluding millions of people.
Yeah.
And that can't be right. 4 million people in this country don't have smartphones. How can you use an app if you don't have a smartphone?
Yeah.
We've got 16 million people disabled in this country in some shape or form. Many of them can't use the new technology. 4 million people use it living in abusive households. They can escape using cash, not using monitored cards and digital.
Very good point.
There are all sorts of reasons why we should have cash.
And for youngsters as well. And also, I think most people would agree, much easier to budget when you're talking about money. I remember the days, when I was waitressing and you have your cash, you know how much money you've got, and that's going on rent, and that's going on the liquor, but that's how much money you've got. And you can physically see it, like I've only got 20 quid left, so that's all I'll spend. Whereas on the card, so easy to go click, click, click. And as we see even in the pub, when, a pint is whatever it is these days, I'm a wine drinker, you don't notice it so much because you're not having to get, 20 quid note out of your pocket.
No, very good point. I mean, I'm sure you got a lot of tips, Julia, when you
I
were
was very good
serving
waitress.
people. But whether they get tips or not, the reality is that you can budget. When I was a trustee of Citizens Advice, we had people come in asking, could we have our contactless switched off because we're just waving the things, forgetting that we're really spending money. But apparently 16 million people in this country budget using cash. Are we saying we're going to impose cashless and they're forced to get into debt because they can't control their expenditure? Really, we just need a basic right to use cash. And most retailers understand the benefit of that. And certainly the public understand the benefit.
Exactly.
So let's give the public what they want for a change.
I tell you what, I was also very, very worried about, probably more concerned about this after what happened in Canada with the truckers in those lockdown protests, when the Canadian government basically turned off people's bank accounts for making payments online to charities supporting those truckers. And the ability of governments to control your bank account was really quite terrifying.
But the most controlling government in the world, arguably, are the Chinese government. They have massive ability to socially score you, switch off, and so on. But interestingly, in China, accepting cash is a law. If businesses don't accept cash, they get fined by the People's Bank of China, even though the government is controlling people through social media and so on. So
you want to buy your pangolin in the wet market, you got to pay with cash. Ron Delnevo, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. He's chair of the Payments Choice Alliance. Thank you very much.